I thought that I would do a recipe video for you. Tonight I'm making lentil lasagna, and I thought that I would show you what I'm doing and the ingredients that I'm using. Haven't done any of these videos for ages because I've been stuck out in the garden doing all sorts of work in the garden. But the garden's starting to take care of itself a little bit more now because of the rain, and I can't get out in the garden and do videos because of the noise today at the back with the people at the bee factory. So I thought it was a good opportunity to get in the kitchen and do a recipe video for you. I hope you enjoyed my last video with the hummus recipe, and if you have tried it, I hope you enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had it with some noodles with some chopped vegetables in it, and that was gorgeous. And we also had it on some oatcakes as well, and that was really nice. So I'm definitely going to make that again. I may change it and do different flavours, see if I can mix around different flavours. I also would like to try it with some avocado in, because I think that would be really nice as well. And I'd also like to try making it with different beans, because I believe you can use cannellini beans and butter beans. So I'm going to try making different dips with different beans and try and mix things up a bit so I can get back on the healthy wagon and start losing some weight again. Because unfortunately I got COVID last year, and then my diet went out the window and I started putting weight back on. So I started eating bread again, and that is always my downfall. If I eat bread, I can just pile on the weight within no time. I'm back up to where I started again. So I have lost weight this last few weeks. I've been cutting out coffee and I have cut out bread. I've had it a couple of times while I was away on holiday with my husband, because there wasn't anything else on the menu to eat. But other than that, I've lost 7 pounds in weight, so I'm really, really pleased with that. I didn't put on all the weight that I lost last year. If you are interested in what I did to lose that weight last year, there are videos in my catalogue, and I'll put a link to them in the little I button up here for you. But I did a whole series of a full 21 days of my detox that I did. And I also did I did an update on day 50, I think, and day 86, and then I got COVID, and then I didn't manage to do any more after that because I was ill for about 6 weeks with COVID, and it took me a long time brain wise to recover from COVID. So I'm finally getting there. The brain fog is lifting, and I think a lot of that is to do with getting back on the healthy wagon again. So that's my reasoning for wanting to do some healthy recipes for you, because I thought that I could share with you what me and my husband are doing, and maybe encourage you to try some different recipes than what you're normally used to, or maybe try and have some recipes that don't include meat. Because we don't eat a lot of meat in this house. I won't cook it. I won't cook red meat. I can't stand the smell. I also ethically can't stand the way that they're treated in the factory farms. So for me, I just choose not to eat meat. I haven't eaten red meat now since 86, I think. I've had it a couple of times in like 20 years ago when I did a detox. I did the Atkins diet, but other than that I haven't eaten. Even then I ate chicken and fish, but I haven't eaten beef since 1986 when there was the mad cow disease outbreak in the UK. So yeah, I won't cook it. I don't like it. Don't like pork. And I really don't think pork is that good for you, to be honest. But that's just my personal opinion. Don't give me down the banks in the comments. That's just my personal opinion and what I prefer for me and for my diet, because it's what suits me. I can't eat meat. I can't digest it. It takes my body far too long to digest it. And I prefer not to eat it because I feel better for not eating it. It's nothing to do with being on a vegan campaign or anything. It's just basically, for me, it just doesn't suit me. So I prefer to eat lots of fresh fruits and vegetables. I eat a lot of fruit. I can eat 4 oranges in one sitting. I can eat 4 or 5 bananas in one day. I just love fruit. I eat apples, I eat kiwi fruits, I eat plums. Fruit is just, I love it. That's why there's so much of it that I'm hoping to grow in the garden, and I'm hoping to be able to enjoy lots of nice food next year from the orchard and things that I've been planting in the garden. So yeah, so back to the recipe. After all that said, as I say, I'm doing lentil lasagna, and I've got using a tin of green lentils from Aldi, a tin of chopped tomatoes. I'm using a pepper that is desperately in need of being used because it's gone all wrinkly. I'm using mushrooms, which I'll just get out the fridge. I'm using mushrooms. I get these wonky, called wonky veg, and I get them from Morrison's, and I got 4 huge courgettes because mine aren't ready yet, and they were £2.50, so that was a really good deal. So I'm putting one of them in, and I might try and use a bit of this aubergine. As you can see, it's seen better days, but there might be some of it that I'll be able to use, so we'll see about that. We'll have a look at it anyway. I'm going to put garlic in. I've got this vegan pesto that I like to use. There we are. It's vegan tomato pesto from the Sakla range. It's really nice. It doesn't contain any rapeseed oil as far as I know. It doesn't say it does. It says this one contains sunflower oil and olive oil. So that's that one. I used this garlic granules. I always use this because it's got a nice strong flavour to it. I do like using fresh garlic, but I'm finding at the moment the fresh garlic in the supermarket is a bit rubbish. It's got no flavour to it, but this has loads of flavour to it. So what I'm going to do through the autumn is I'm going to ferment some garlic. I've got some fermenting in the jar in the pantry from last year, but I'm going to try doing it again this year. So that's that. That's that. So I think that's all the ingredients. Oh yeah, tomato puree and some mixed herbs, and that's all my ingredients. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop my onion first. I keep the onion skins and I use them in the dye pot to dye my wool, my weaving kits, which are available in my Etsy shop in the description bar below. But yeah, I keep the onion skins and I dye my wool with them. So I'm just going to turn you down and then prepare all the ingredients and we'll do the recipe together. So I'm just putting a little bit of olive oil in my pan, just to cook the vegetables down really. This one's extra virgin olive oil. I do prefer to buy the cold pressed olive oil, but they didn't have any, so I had to get that one. And a little bit of water. And that way you don't use a shed load of oil. So I finally chopped my onion, popping that in. That's the first ingredient to go in. Turn the heat down a bit. You don't want to fry your onion, you want to saute it so it's all nice and soft. So to that I'm going to add, now I like a lot of garlic because I find that pulses can be a bit bland sometimes, so I'm putting about a tablespoon of garlic in. That can saute while I'm chopping the rest of my veggies. So chop my mushrooms. I've chopped them up decent size, not too small, not too big, but I just want to give it a bit of a meaty texture, a bit of a chomping into something texture. I don't want it like soup, so that'll just give it a bit of a bitey texture. You may need to add a bit more water to saute the mushrooms. I'll just add a bit more. I'll leave them to cook down for a minute. So as you've probably noticed, I've changed my pan, but it was getting too small, so I've decided to go with the big pan. So I'm just adding my chopped peppers, stir that in. It's cooking down nicely. And I'm going to drain my green lentils, ready to add to the mix. I'm going to add them now because I want them to take up the flavour of the onion and the garlic and everything else before the vegetables soak up the flavours. Now this sieve and this spoon were both Gordon's. I inherited quite a lot of stuff from his kitchen. It's been really handy. Right, so that's the lentils added. Right, next I'm going to add this stuff, the pesto. It does get a bit of mould on the top, on the surface. Just take it off, there's nothing wrong with it. At this point now, before I do the courgette and the aubergine, I want to add this because I want the aubergine and the courgette to soak up the flavour of the pesto. So, about a tablespoon. It contains quite a bit of salt, so if you're avoiding salt, you might want to avoid this step, but it just adds a lot of flavour because it's got basil in it, pine nuts in it, sun-dried tomatoes. I think it's the sun-dried tomatoes that add a bit of saltiness to it. What's the other ingredients? Sunflower oil, as I said earlier, red pepper, tomato flakes. So yeah, it's got natural flavourings, pine nuts. So it's a lovely smell. It smells of basil. And then also at this point, I'm going to add my mixed herbs, and I'm going to add a teaspoon of that as well. Good level teaspoon. I get these in Tesco and they're about £1, and you get 30 grams. In the normal jars you only get 11, so you're getting quite a lot of mixed herbs for relatively cheap. And you can use it in so many different things. I put it on roast potatoes. I also add it to carrots when I do carrots with a little bit of butter. So that's starting to smell really nice, that now. So I'm going to chop my aubergine and my courgette, and then we'll come back to it. I like to chop my courgette up quite small. I don't like it too chunky. Now the aubergine wasn't too bad. I just took the skin off, and it's actually really usable. I've got all that aubergine. So I'm going to pop that in as well. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just on the skin. I'm not encouraging you to use mouldy food, by the way, but I just don't believe in waste. I mean, there's still a lot of green in that. There's nothing wrong with it. So I've just taken off the mouldy stuff, and that's all I lost. So that's it for my ingredients. As you can see, it's nice and hearty with the lentils and everything. So the next ingredient to add now is the tomatoes and a bit of water. I don't believe in throwing good food away, so that's why I didn't. So that's my tomatoes gone in. I think these were Tesco's, 33p. They may have gone up since I bought them because they're out in food storage in the back. Keep a good supply of tins. I'm going to add half a tin of water and let that cook down because I don't want it watery like a bolognese. So yeah, I think that'll be enough water. And I'm going to add a good squirt, probably 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Mix that in. Looks nice and tomatoey. Fresh basil's nice in it, but I haven't got any. Now the aubergine makes it all nice and sloppy, like it's supposed to be for a meat lasagna, which is nice. Right, so I'm going to add a couple of bay leaves. I get my bay leaves out the garden. I've got a bay leaf bush, and I'm hoping to grow it into a tree. So they're going to go in. They're only small, so I've added about 6, but you only need about 2. And then I'm going to leave that to cook. Cook it for half an hour, just so all the vegetables soften up and soak up all the flavours. And then I'll turn it off and I'll leave it to soak until, say about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Cook good 3 hours. And then that'll just get everything mingled together. And then we'll come back and we'll do the roux and we'll set it all up. So I'll see you later. The sauce has been soaking, and it's been soaking now for about 2 hours, so it's ready to put the lasagna together. So just take the bay leaves out. Good thing to remember how many bay leaves you've used, because I always lose them. Give it a taste and check you don't want to add anything else to it. I'm going to add a few herbs, spices to mine. I'm going to add a bit of paprika and a little bit of cayenne. I'm also going to add a bit of stock as well. I use a vegan one, but you can use Bovril or something like that if you want to. About that much. And turn it back on. Right, so now I'm going to do the roux, which is basically just flour and water, but I'm also going to put a little bit of garlic and a little bit of cheese. So this is a pudding spoon. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put 5 in. Give it a good mix. Switch it on and give it a stir, and then as it heats up just keep stirring it until it thickens. So I'm just going to add this small piece of cheese. It's about 1.5 centimetres cubed, not that big, and I'm going to grate it in. And I'm going to put a little bit of cinnamon in. You just want a pinch, don't want a lot. And stir it up again. The tomato mixture is a bit thin, so I'm going to thicken it with a bit of corn flour. A handy tip I discovered for mixing your corn flour with your water is to use a jar with a lid on. Bit of water. I'm going to put a spoonful of corn flour, cornstarch. This stuff, buy it in Lidl. Put the lid on. Give it a shake until all the lumps are out. Pour it in. A lot less faff. Now just thicken it up a bit. Right, so the roux is ready. I added a bit of cinnamon, a bit of cheese. And that's just about right. Just switch that off. Bolognese is done. So we'll move on to putting it together. Right, so this is my dish. Spoon a bit in the bottom. And that's going to be so our first layer doesn't stick. So this is our rice lasagna. Our sheets. I get them in Morrison's. And I pay about £1 for them in Morrison's. Break a bit up. That's your first layer. And you just put it together like an ordinary lasagna. So I'll put that to time lapse for you, and I'll show you it finished. So I've got this left, so I might serve this on the side of the plate, or I'll save it for baked potatoes for lunch. And this now is going to soak until about 5 o'clock, which is going to be about 2 hours, and that will soften up the pasta a bit. And I'll grate the cheese and pop it in the oven. So I'll show you when it's cooked, when it's all served up, and let you have a look around. Right, so we've had our tea. The lasagna was lovely. Husband really enjoyed it, so I'll definitely make that again. It's definitely worth making. It does take a bit of time because of all the different preparation bits, but it's definitely worth it. And it's one of those things that you spend 10 minutes and then you leave it for a couple of hours. Another 10 minutes, leave it for a couple of hours, and then cook it in the oven for 45 minutes and it's done. So it's definitely worth a go. I really recommend it if you want to try and avoid meat and you want to do cheaper meals. Eating lentils is definitely a good cheap way to go, because a tin of lentils is about 49p in Lidl. Well, it was when I bought them last, and I think they're about 75p in Tesco's or Morrison's. So it's definitely worth replacing meat with them. You'll save an awful lot of money. I mean, even if you use 2 tins of lentils, it's still less than £1. if you get them in Lidl, and probably about £1.50, £1.60 if you buy them in Tesco's or one of the other supermarkets. I know Sainsbury's do a good organic range, but we don't have a Sainsbury's here, so it's very difficult for me to get organic ones. Morrison's do them, and they're £2 a tin, and I can't afford that, so not if we're going to have it as a regular staple. But if I'm going to have it as a one-off, then I might just buy the tin. But if I want to do it for food storage, then I'm going to buy the cheaper tins. So yeah, it's gone cold here, that's why I've changed my jumper and I've put my warm coat on, and I'm going to go and settle down for the evening. So I hope you've enjoyed my video. If you have, do like and subscribe, do hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next video. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you soon. Bye.